The hall at King's Landing was silent, the kind of silence that carried weight. Robert Baratheon, wounded, bleeding, and broken, lay in his bed, surrounded by whispers and vultures dressed in noble robes. His last days were slipping through his fingers like sand in a storm. But unlike in the story that everyone knows, this time Ned Stark didn't say no. It started the same, the letter, the suspicions about Cersei, the whispers of bastards with black hair. Jon Arryn was dead. Secrets poisoned the capital. But Ned, this time, he saw the game, or at least part of it. He saw the chaos, the lies, and the blood that would follow if Robert's children, illegitimate, false heirs, were placed on the throne. And maybe, just maybe, he saw that the realm needed someone better. Not power-hungry. Not reckless. Someone who remembered what honor meant. So, when Robert died, Ned didn't just reveal the truth. He acted. He showed the paper Robert signed, naming him Lord Protector, and then took one step further. "I will not just protect the realm," he said before the small council, voice firm. "I will lead it, until the realm has peace again." There were gasps. Littlefinger smirked, but said nothing. Varys blinked once, measuring. Pycelle mumbled about precedent. But the words had been spoken. And in that moment, Westeros turned. The armies of the north stood behind Ned. Riverrun, out of respect for Catelyn and House Tully, backed him. Stannis was far, gathering ships and bitterness. Renly fled the city under cover of night, fearing war. And Cersei, well, Cersei wasn't going down easy. But she wasn't ready. Ned moved faster this time. He ordered the city watch to seize Joffrey and Tommen. He gave them no chance to flee or rally. The Lannister twins were taken into custody, Jaime, surrounded by 10 of Ned's personal guard, thrown into a cell. Cersei was locked in her chambers, her screams echoing through the Red Keep. "I will not be ruled by a Stark," she cried, spitting as they dragged her away. But it was already done. The people of King's Landing, long suffering under Robert's drunken reign and the Lannisters' arrogance, welcomed Ned. He was quiet. Cold. But he was just. And more than anything, he wasn't greedy. That, more than crowns and dragons, earned their respect. Back in Winterfell, ravens flew fast. Robb, only a boy of 16, stood in the Godswood with Maester Luwin when the news came. "Your father is now king," the raven's scroll read. Robb's hands trembled. "King." "Yes," Luwin said softly. "Westeros has a Stark on the throne again." But not everyone celebrated. In the west, Tywin Lannister burned with fury. His daughter imprisoned. His son humiliated. His bloodline disgraced. And if anyone thought Tywin would let that stand, they didn't know what it meant to be a lion. But the king, Eddard Stark, knew this wasn't the end. It was only the start of a darker chapter. He sat on the Iron Throne, cold steel digging into his back, and stared at the empty hall before him. This wasn't a seat made for honor. It was made for power. For fire and blood. He didn't want it. He never wanted it. But now it was his. And the whole world was watching. The Iron Throne was colder than Ned Stark imagined. Not in temperature, though it was forged from swords, but in presence. It didn't welcome him. It didn't fit him. It mocked him, in silence. Still, he sat, not for pride, but because peace demanded it. The 7 kingdoms needed order. And if no one else would do it with honor, he would. But peace has a price. The first days of King Eddard Stark's reign were uneasy. The small council, now reshaped, met every morning before sunrise. Renly Baratheon had fled south, whispering of claims and gathering friends. Stannis, always cold and distant, had not yet responded to Ned's raven. Tywin Lannister had retreated to Casterly Rock and had said nothing, but his silence felt like a drawn sword in the dark. And then there was the matter of the children. Joffrey and Tommen were boys, products of incest, yes, but still children. Ned had spared them execution, locking them in the Red Keep under watch. Some said it was weakness. Others, mercy. But Ned knew better. Killing children was the Lannister way. It would not be his. Cersei, however, was another matter. Her trial was being prepared. She sat alone in a black cell, refusing food, speaking only to the silent sisters who cleaned her chamber. Even in chains, she was dangerous. Her words were poison. Her name still held weight. And Ned felt the weight of it every time he looked at the raven scrolls piling on his desk. Across the sea, Daenerys Targaryen had married a Dothraki horse lord, and whispers spoke of dragons. Ned didn't believe in old myths, not truly, but the realm was changing. Magic, dragons, and shadows were returning. And now, with the Lannisters humiliated, Westeros was vulnerable. But at least for now, the streets of King's Landing were calm. The gold cloaks, purged of Littlefinger's influence, now reported directly to the king. Lord Varys remained, quiet and observant, playing all sides as usual. Pycelle mumbled support but drifted like a leaf in the wind, loyal to whoever held power. Only one man troubled Ned deeply, Peter Baelish. Littlefinger was too smart to leave, too slippery to accuse. He played the game with a smile. He bowed, spoke kindly, but there was always something behind his eyes. He had once loved Catelyn. That made him dangerous. That made him patient. And Ned knew patience was the deadliest weapon in King's Landing. Meanwhile, in Winterfell, Robb Stark had taken up the mantle of Warden of the North. Too young, too raw, but determined. Catelyn remained at his side, torn between pride and worry. She wrote to Ned often. "Do not let this crown harden you," she warned in one letter. "The South chews up Starks and spits out bones. Don't forget who you are." He didn't. But sometimes, late at night, he wondered if he already had. One evening, Ned stood alone in the Tower of the Hand, staring out at the dark city. Footsteps echoed behind him. It was Ser Barristan Selmy. "My lord," Barristan said with a quiet bow. "Or, I suppose now, your grace." Ned turned. "Call me what you will, Ser Barristan. I have no taste for the word." Barristan gave a faint smile. Few good kings ever do. There was silence between them. "You served Robert well," Ned said finally. "I served the realm, your grace. As I did your brother Brandon before him." That name struck Ned like a blade. Brandon, the wild one, the laughing one, the dead one. Burned by the mad king. He would have made a bold king, perhaps even a foolish one. But he wouldn't have hesitated like Ned did. He would have drawn his sword and cut down any who threatened his family. Ned didn't have that fire. But maybe he didn't need it. "Stay with me," Ned said quietly. "As Lord Commander. I will need men I can trust." Barristan bowed his head. "It would be my honor." Later that night, another visitor came, Lord Varys, slipping through the shadows like a whisper. "Your Grace," he said with that sly softness, "I bring news from Dragonstone." Ned's breath caught. "Stannis?" Varys nodded. "He prepares his fleet. He claims the throne, by right of blood. And will he sail soon?" Varys hesitated. "Soon enough. And, he is not alone. The Red Woman is with him." "Red Woman?" "Melisandre. A priestess of fire. She whispers of gods, flames, and destiny." Ned's eyes darkened. "I do not trust fire. Nor should you, your grace. It burns everything, even truth." The raven arrived at dawn. Its feathers were soaked in rain, and its claws shook with cold, but the message it carried was sharp as steel. "Stannis sails. Dragonstone is emptied. The Lord of Light guides him." Ned stood in the war room, the message clutched in his hand, his knuckles white. The table before him was scattered with maps, markers, and cups of untouched wine. Outside the chamber, the storm broke over King's Landing, thunder rolling like a war drum from the gods. The storm comes with him, Ser Davos Seaworth had once said of Stannis. And it never leaves. Ned had hoped Stannis would wait. That he'd reason. That he'd write. But Stannis wasn't Robert. He didn't drink. He didn't joke. He didn't bend. He believed, in justice, in blood, and now, in a fire god who whispered to him through a red priestess with burning eyes. They'll land in Storm's End or near Blackwater Bay, Ser Barristan said, his voice steady. They'll want to take the capital before your reign has deep roots. Ned nodded slowly. Send ravens. The banners must be called. Across the realm, House Stark had to call allies it barely knew. Ned wasn't a Southron king. He hadn't hunted with the Tyrells or feasted with the Martells. He wasn't charming like Renly, or terrifying like Tywin. All he had was honor, and in the Game of Thrones, honor was a poor shield. Still, the ravens flew. To the Eyrie, where Lisa Arryn brooded with her sickly son, whispering that the South killed her husband. To Highgarden, where the Tyrells measured every word in coin and power. To Dorne, bitter and patient. And to Riverrun, where Catelyn's brother, Edmure, answered with steel. Some would come. Others would wait, to see if the Wolf King in King's Landing would bleed. And bleed he did. It started in the market streets, whispers of rebellion, of Stannis being the true king by blood. Then came the fire, a storehouse burned by followers of R'hllor, leaving behind nothing but scorched symbols and ash. And then, finally, a corpse. One of Ned's council members, Maester Colder, a quiet man from Oldtown, found hanging from the gates of the Red Keep, a crown of thorns jammed onto his cold brow. A message, Varys said, his voice soft. Stannis has never sent one so loud. Ned's jaw tightened. Have the body burned? Not buried? No, Ned said flatly. If the Red God wants fire, let him have it. But fire wasn't so easily fed. That night, the sky turned orange. Another blaze, this time, near Flea Bottom. Dozens dead. And among the ash, a sigil carved into stone, a heart, burning, with a stag inside. The Red Woman had arrived. Melisandre, priestess of R'hllor, had stepped onto Westerosi soil, and with her came nightmares. She's no ordinary priest, whispered Ser Davos Seaworth, who had finally been captured during a scouting raid near Blackwater. Ned stared at him through the cell bars. Davos looked tired, his beard wet with blood. She sees things, Your Grace, he continued. In flames. She told Stannis you stole the crown meant for him. That a shadow will kill your reign before it grows. He believes her. And do you? Davos looked away. I've seen too much not to. Ned left the dungeons with a deeper weight in his chest. The capital was beginning to slip. The people had food, yes. Order, yes. But they didn't cheer for him. He wasn't Robert. He didn't buy love with tournaments and wine. He gave truth, and truth was bitter. That night, as he stood in the gardens, Catelyn joined him. I'm glad you sent for me, she said, her hand finding his. I had no choice, he replied. I need someone I trust. Then let me speak plainly. Ned turned. You're losing this city, Ned, she said. And you'll lose the realm if you keep leading with only your heart. I won't become a butcher to keep a crown. But you'll die, and leave your children to clean up the blood. He looked away, ashamed. I never wanted this throne. And yet here we are. She was right. And he hated it. Suddenly, a breathless night arrived. My lord, your grace, a raven. From Casterly Rock. Ned's stomach sank. He unfolded the parchment. It was short. If you do not release my daughter, and my son, I will come with fire and gold. You will learn what it means to rob a lion of its cubs. Tywin Lannister. Ned handed the note to Catelyn. Her fingers trembled as she read. They'll come from both sides now, she whispered. Ned nodded. From fire, and from gold. The drums of war were beating on all sides. Tywin Lannister's letter wasn't a threat, it was a promise. The lion had bared its teeth, and now it was only a matter of time before it pounced. Ned knew what was coming. He had studied Tywin during Robert's rebellion. Tywin didn't rage, he calculated. When he moved, it was with full force and without mercy. And now, with his children imprisoned and his family name disgraced, he would move like a storm. In the war room, Ned stood with Ser Barristan, Catelyn, and a few trusted lords. The map of Westeros before them looked more like a battlefield than a kingdom. To the east, Stannis had landed near Storm's End. His banners flew with fire, and his men marched under the shadow of a god few understood. To the west, Tywin Lannister gathered his forces at Harrenhal, and reports of mercenaries arriving from the free cities confirmed that he intended a swift, brutal campaign. We'll be crushed between them, Lord Glover muttered, pointing to the map. One from the east, one from the west. If we don't move, they'll meet at King's Landing and burn it down. No, Ned said firmly. We hold. We strengthen the city walls. We send riders north. Robb will call the banners. The north will march. But that will take weeks, said Catelyn, her voice tight with worry. You think Tywin Lannister will wait while we prepare? Ned's jaw clenched. He might. If I give him something he wants. Everyone turned to him. You're thinking of releasing them, Catelyn said, eyes widening. Cersei. Jaime. I'm thinking of saving lives. If Tywin believes he can reclaim them through diplomacy, he might delay his attack. But at what cost? Ser Barristan asked. If you show weakness now, others may follow. Ned looked down at the map. The weight of the realm pressed on his shoulders like never before. Every choice came with a price. Every move, a consequence. Then, as if summoned by the gods, a shadow entered the chamber. It was Varys. He glided into the room like silk, holding a fresh scroll. A gift from the flames, he said softly. Ned took the scroll. It was sealed with black wax, the mark of Melisandre. He broke it open. The usurper shall fall. The false king shall bleed. Come forth, and meet your judgment. It was signed only with fire. Varys watched him carefully. Stannis marches. 2 days, no more. He means to take the capital before Lord Tywin arrives. So he forces my hand, Ned muttered. Perhaps, Varys said. Or perhaps he wishes to meet his enemies one at a time. What of the people? Ned asked. Do they support him? Varys hesitated. They don't support anyone, Your Grace. They support bread. And safety. That was the truth of it. Kings and queens rose and fell, but the small folk bled the same. And if King's Landing became a battlefield, 10,000 innocents would burn. That night, Ned stood on the battlements and looked over the city. The torches below flickered like stars. The wind from Blackwater Bay carried the scent of salt and smoke. And somewhere out there, 2 armies marched toward him, one with swords of steel, the other with faith and fire. Catelyn joined him again. You cannot trust either of them, she said softly. I know. But you'll have to deal with one before the other arrives. I know. And you still won't kill Cersei? Ned turned to her, tired. No. I will not kill a mother for the crimes of a crown. She would kill you. I know that too. A long silence passed between them. Then Catelyn whispered, You're too good for this world, Ned Stark. He didn't answer. He just stared out at the sea. The next morning, the bells rang. A scout had arrived, half dead, armor cracked, bleeding from his thigh. "Stannis," he gasped. "He's at the Blackwater. 10,000 men. Fire everywhere. He brings a siege tower shaped like a burning heart." The city braced itself. Archers were stationed on the walls. Boiling oil was prepared. The gold cloaks patrolled every street. The gates were reinforced with timber and iron. And the people? They prayed. To the Seven, to the old gods, to anyone who would listen. As the sun began to fall, Ned walked into the throne room, flanked by his guards. The Iron Throne loomed before him like a demon carved in steel. He didn't sit. He turned to Ser Barristan. "Ready the gates. If Stannis wishes an audience, he'll have one. But not with a sword at his throat." "You mean to parley?" Barristan asked. "I mean to buy time." Catelyn stepped forward. "And if he refuses?" Ned looked toward the horizon, where the first banners of flame could be seen rising in the distance. "Then we bleed." The morning sky was painted with ash. From the Blackwater's edge, Stannis Baratheon's army stood in perfect formation, their armor reflecting the early sun. 10,000 men, banners of fire waving above their heads, and at the center stood a towering siege tower, shaped like a burning heart. Smoke drifted from its crown, and some whispered that it bled fire from within. From atop the city walls, Ned Stark watched in silence. His breath was cold despite the heat rising from below. Around him, archers stood ready, and his bannermen waited for orders. But Ned didn't want a war. Not yet. Not if words could hold the fire back. He turned to Ser Barristan. "Open the gate." Slowly. "No more than 5 riders. If Stannis comes, let him enter under truce." "And if he brings the Red Witch?" Barristan asked, eyes sharp. Ned didn't flinch. "Then the gods can judge us both." The gates groaned open. Minutes later, 5 riders approached, armored in black and gold, led by Stannis Baratheon himself. At his side rode Melisandre, clad in deep crimson robes, her long red hair trailing like flame in the wind. Her eyes met Ned's even before they reached the gates. She smiled. They were brought to the throne room, a cold chamber of stone and shadows, the Iron Throne looming behind Ned like a warning. He did not sit in it. He stood. Stannis entered, helmet under one arm. His face was stone, every inch of him stiff with anger and righteousness. "Ned," he said flatly. "I had hoped you'd be wise enough to bend the knee." "I've bent the knee before," Ned said calmly. "To a just cause. This is not it." Stannis stepped forward, his boots echoing. "I am Robert's true heir. Born of his blood, older than Renly. The Iron Throne is mine by right. Your brother named me Lord Protector before he died. I rule for the realm, until it is safe again." Melisandre stepped closer now, her voice soft, almost a purr. "You rule against the will of the Lord of Light. You sit on a throne of lies, guarded by false gods." Ned's gaze hardened. "The people of Westeros do not worship fire. You are not their queen. And your god has no place in our laws." The flames in the brazier near her seemed to flicker at her glance. "You are wrong," she whispered. "I have seen it in the flames. A shadow over your crown. A wolf surrounded by smoke. You will burn, Eddard Stark, unless you kneel before fire." Stannis raised a hand. "Enough, Melisandre." She fell silent, but her eyes never left Ned. "I didn't come here to trade prophecy," Stannis said. "I came to offer mercy. Surrender the city, step down, and I will let your family return north unharmed. And if I refuse? Then your reign ends before it begins." Ned stepped forward now, his voice rising. You march with fire and fear. You bring a priestess who burns people alive. That is not justice. That is terror. The law is clear. Then let the people judge you, Ned snapped. Let them see your fire, your tower, your god. And then we'll see who they call king. Stannis frowned. You gamble with the lives of innocents. And you threaten them while calling yourself just. For a moment, the two men stared, the cold wolf and the fireborn king. Then Stannis turned. We'll speak again, he said. As they left, Melisandre paused beside Ned. She leaned close, her breath warm. I've seen your death, Stark, she whispered. It comes not with steel, but with shadow. And when it comes, your gods will not save you. Ned said nothing. He watched them go. When the doors closed, Catelyn emerged from behind the pillar. She'd heard everything. He won't stop, she said. He believes he's righteous. Ned looked toward the Iron Throne. Righteous men are the most dangerous. That night, the first stones were thrown. Not by soldiers, but by the people. Down in the streets, fires broke out, small ones, acts of panic, or defiance. Stannis had begun his siege. His army camped beyond the river, cutting off food and supplies. His followers snuck into the city, preaching of fire and cleansing. Fear spread faster than plague. And then the first body was found. Burned, hanging from the gates. A message carved into the wood beneath. The false king shall burn. All must kneel to flame. Ned ordered the corpse taken down and buried. He summoned the council. We're being attacked from within, he said. Fanatics. Arsonists. Loyal to Melisandre. Do we strike the camp? Asked Lord Mertens. No. We hold. For how long? Ned stared at the door. Until winter comes, or the lions roar. The siege pressed down on King's Landing like a clenched fist. Food prices doubled, then tripled. The smell of smoke never left the streets. Murmurs spread, not just of war outside the gates, but war inside them. Stannis' red followers had begun slipping into the city through back alleys and hidden docks, lighting fires, carving the burning heart into doorposts, and disappearing before the gold cloaks could catch them. Ned ordered strict patrols and nightly curfews, but fear moved faster than his orders. The people began to turn. At first, they prayed to the Seven Harder, lighting candles and flocking to the September of Baelor. But after the second burning, a merchant caught preaching the false gods, hung upside down and set alight, many began whispering about the red god in their own homes. Fear of flame turned into awe. Awe into belief. The city is slipping from us, Ser Barristan told him one morning. Not by sword, but by silence. In the council chamber, Ned read daily reports, food riots near Flea Bottom, loyalist guards found dead with blackened tongues, children going missing, taken by the fire cult, some said. And then, something worse. Varys arrived at dusk, face pale, carrying a blackened blade wrapped in cloth. It was found under your bed, he said. By one of my little birds. Ned unwrapped the cloth. It was a shadow dagger, thin and jagged, a blade of obsidian and burned steel. He means to kill me, Ned said quietly. Not him, Varys replied. Her. Melisandre. Ned closed his eyes, thinking. She threatened it the day she arrived. She said I would die by shadow. It was no empty threat, Varys whispered. There are darker things than swords, my king. You rule with honor. But honor cannot fight what walks in the dark. That night, Ned slept in a different chamber. Not out of fear, but strategy. If the Red Woman sent shadows, let them find an empty bed. The next day, another raven came. From Winterfell. Robb had raised the north. 10,000 men now marched south, bearing the direwolf banner. The North had chosen to follow their king, not wait for the world to burn. It brought Ned no joy. It means war on two fronts, Catelyn said, her voice hard with worry. If Robb arrives and Tywin strikes from the west, we'll be trapped in a hammer and anvil. I won't ask Robb to turn back. You may not have to, said a voice from the doorway. It was Littlefinger. Peter Baelish had been silent for weeks, lurking in shadows like the spider he was. Now, he walked in with that familiar smirk, as if chaos itself were his best friend. I have news, he said, and an offer. Ned stood slowly. Speak carefully. Littlefinger held up a scroll. Lord Tywin marches. But not toward you. Everyone stiffened. He heads north, toward Riverrun. The Riverlands are being sacked as we speak. Ned stepped forward. Edmure's lands? Yes, Littlefinger said. It's a punishment. You hold Jaime. Tywin makes the Tullus bleed in return. Catelyn's face turned white. You said you had an offer, Ned growled. I do, Peter said with a grin. I can bring the Tyrells to your side. Mace Tyrell waits in the Reach, watching. He fears backing the wrong king. But if you marry your daughter, Sansa, to his son Loras, he will send 50,000 men to your gates. Ned stared at him. Sansa is a child. She's a pawn in a game far larger than you realize, Littlefinger said. And pawns win wars if played well. Catelyn spoke then, cold and sharp. No. We will not sell our daughter to gain soldiers. Peter turned to her, smiling. My lady, your family is already at war. It's not about marriage. It's about survival. Ned looked at the scroll in his hand. The Riverlands were bleeding. His daughter was in the Red Keep, a prisoner of peace. And the city he ruled was full of fire worshippers who whispered of his death. Was this what kingship meant? He dismissed the council. That night, in the crypt-like quiet of the Tower of the Hand, Ned sat alone, reading the letter Robb had sent. Winter is coming, father. And we ride with it. He smiled faintly. The boy had grown fast. Then he heard it. A sound, soft, like fabric dragging over stone. His hand went to his sword. But it was not an assassin. It was Arya. She stepped into the candlelight, wild-eyed, dressed in rags, carrying a wooden practice sword. I heard them talking, she whispered. The Red Woman. She said the shadows are almost ready. She said you'd scream before the end. Ned's heart turned cold. How long have you been spying, Arya? I wasn't spying, she said. I was listening. He pulled her close. You must stay out of sight. Promise me. Arya didn't nod. They're going to kill you, father. Just like they killed Ser Roderick. Ned froze. What? 2 nights ago. In the alley near the docks. They burned him. They said he was your sword. Now you're alone. Ned held his daughter tighter. He was not afraid of fire, or shadows, or war. But he was afraid of what it would cost. The morning broke with a scream. Not from the streets, but from within the Red Keep itself, deep, echoing, and sharp enough to silence even the crows. Ned Stark was already awake. Sleep had long abandoned him. He was in the war room, poring over Stannis's movements, when Ser Barristan entered with a grim face. There's been a murder, your grace. Who? Lord Valerian. Throat slit. Eyes burned black. Ned stood up so quickly his chair crashed behind him. Burned eyes. Again. Where? Outside the Great September. And, Ser Barristan paused. There were no guards posted. The men meant to watch him were found unconscious. Ned's jaw tightened. Poison. Or something worse. They didn't speak of it out loud, the shadow. But it moved now like a name they didn't want to say. Something not of this world. Not of swords and shields. And Ned feared, more than ever, that his war was no longer against men. He moved quickly. Orders were issued. No one was to move about the Red Keep unguarded. The gates were sealed. Ravens were sent to the citadel, to Winterfell, to the Vale. And then, against his better judgment, Ned did something desperate. He summoned Melisandre. She arrived at dusk, her red robes sweeping the ground like blood spilled behind her. She walked into the war chamber with a smile, the kind only someone who knew secrets could wear. "You finally call for fire," she said softly. "I call for answers," Ned snapped. She looked amused. "Answers are in the flames. But your eyes have always been closed. Who killed Valerion?" She tilted her head. "The Lord of Light judges all men. Some pass. Some burn. I will not play word games, priestess. You threatened me with shadows. I find one of my lords dead," his eyes burned out. "Tell me, was it your doing?" She stepped closer, voice low, intimate. "No. But the Lord saw his heart. It was weak. He plotted against you. He wrote letters to Tywin, to Dorne. He offered them your head." Ned's breath caught. "You lie. I speak what I see in the flames. And if I do not believe in your flames, then you will die in their shadow." Before he could answer, the doors opened again. This time, Catelyn stormed in. "You summoned her," she hissed, staring at Melisandre like she were a venomous snake. "I needed to know. She's turning this city into ash. Do you not see it, Ned? The people worship her now. The guards whisper her name like she's their queen." Melisandre smiled. "The fire rises, my lady. It burns through doubt." Ned slammed his hand down on the table. "Enough. Get out. Both of you." Melisandre bowed gracefully. "Soon, your grace. You will kneel. Or burn." She left without a word more. But her absence did not bring peace. Later that night, Ned found himself in the crypts below the Red Keep, a place even the lords forgot existed. Dust clung to every stone, and the air was thick with age and death. He needed silence. He needed to think. But he was not alone. Varys stepped from the shadows, holding a candle. "I thought you might be here," he said softly. "I needed to breathe. Few come to the dead for peace. Sometimes, they're the only ones who don't demand something." Varys nodded. "She's gaining influence," Ned said. "Yes. The people follow her. The guards believe in her fire. Even my own council wavers." "Yes. So what would you do, if you were me?" Varys tilted his head. "I would do what you cannot." "What's that?" "I would kill her." Ned stared at him. "And become the thing I swore to fight." "You swore to protect the realm. Sometimes, protecting it requires fire, to kill the fire." Ned said nothing. The silence was answer enough. When he returned to his chambers, Arya was waiting for him. She sat on his bed, clutching a dagger. Her eyes were sharp. Too sharp for her age. "They're planning something again," she said. "In the kitchens. I heard one say, tonight." Ned sat beside her, weary beyond words. "You should be with Sansa. She doesn't listen. She just brushes her hair and talks about being queen." He smiled faintly. "You're not like her." "I don't want to be." There was a knock at the door. It was Ser Barristan again, pale. "My king," he said. "There's been another death. Lord Dondarrion. Burned. No sign of struggle." Ned stood. "This is it," he said. "Tonight, they come. And they did. At midnight, a shadow slipped into the Red Keep. Not a man. Not a woman. A shape, blacker than black, its form flickering like candlelight. It moved past guards without sound. Past locked doors without touch. It found Ned. But it didn't strike. It stood in the darkness, watching him. Studying him. Then it vanished. Ned did not sleep that night. He did not pray. He simply stood by the window, watching the city below, wondering how much longer he could hold a crown made of fire, lies, and shadow. The dawn came blood-red. From the walls of King's Landing, Ned Stark watched the sky shift like an omen. No birds sang. The city was quiet, too quiet. Even the gold cloaks moved slower, as if waiting for something they couldn't name. Stannis' army still camped at the Blackwater, torches flickering in the fog like the eyes of ghosts. Inside the city, the air felt heavy. Like something was ending. And perhaps it was. Ned stood in the throne room, the Iron Throne looming behind him, still untouched. He had never sat on it since Robert's death. Not once. Not fully. He ruled, yes. But some part of him always resisted it, as if the steel itself rejected him, or perhaps it was his soul that rejected the steel. That morning, 2 letters were brought to him. One from Robb, now only days away with his northern host. A short message, scrawled in haste. "We march to you. The North remembers." The second letter chilled him. It was unsigned, written in perfect Lannister script. "We will take your daughter as trade. 1 girl for 1 queen. Cersei or Sansa. Choose." Catelyn sat across from him, the color drained from her face. "They're trying to split you," she said. "Make you choose between throne and family." "They already have," Ned replied. "Every day. Then make the right choice." He didn't answer. That night, he walked the halls of the Red Keep alone. Not even guards followed. He needed silence. And answers. At the September of Baelor, he found Sansa kneeling before the statues of the 7, tears on her cheeks. She turned when she heard his steps. "Father," she whispered. "You should be asleep." "I couldn't." She hesitated. "Is it true? Are they going to take me away?" Ned knelt beside her. "No one is taking you, Sansa. But, if it meant saving Mother. Or the city. I would do it." His heart broke a little then. "Your child. I'm a Stark." He didn't correct her. In the morning, the gates of the city thundered open. It wasn't an attack. It wasn't fire or steel. It was Stannis Baratheon, alone, walking through the gate with his sword sheathed and a white flag in hand. Melisandre was nowhere in sight. Ned met him in the courtyard, surrounded by archers. But Stannis didn't come for war. "I've come to talk," he said. "No guards. They're waiting. This is between kings." Ned led him to the great hall. There, beneath the Iron Throne, the 2 men spoke, one last time. "I won't let you take this city," Ned said. "And I won't leave without it," Stannis replied. "Then we fight." "Not if you do what must be done." Stannis placed something on the floor. A scroll. Written and sealed by High Septon himself. "A union. Between your daughter and mine. A royal pact. And your crown passes to me when you step down." Ned stared at him. "So, I give you the kingdom, and you let my children live?" "I let the realm live," Stannis said coldly. "Under one God. Under law." Ned stood slowly, the weight of it all pressing on his shoulders. "And if I say no? Then I burn this city to ash." Silence stretched between them. "I'll consider it," Ned said. Stannis turned and walked away. That night, Ned sat in his chambers with both of his daughters, Sansa and Arya. He listened to them talk, fight, cry. He watched them. He remembered Winterfell. He remembered the cold mornings, the snow, the smell of the gods' wood. He remembered who he was before the crown. Then he summoned Varys. "Prepare the ships. I'm sending my daughters home." "You're choosing them," Varys said. "I should have done it long ago." "And the throne?" Ned looked at the iron throne in the flickering torchlight. "Let it rot." The next day, a raven flew from the Red Keep. It declared the abdication of King Eddard Stark. It named Stannis Baratheon king of the Undolls and the First Men, under the Lord of Light, by pact and surrender. But it also named the North free, untouched by fire, untouched by flame. Sansa and Arya sailed north with Catelyn. The Riverlands were spared. And Robb met them halfway, leading them back to Winterfell, where the cold winds waited. Eddard Stark remained behind for the handover. But he never appeared at the ceremony. They found his chambers empty. His sword, ice, laid across his bed. No one saw him leave. Some say he sailed for the Wall, to live the rest of his days in the cold, free from crowns. Others say he died quietly, his heart broken by the cost of peace. But the city lived. The people did not burn. And in the quiet snows of the north, beneath the weirwood trees, the Starks endured. Because Ned Stark never wanted power. He wanted peace. And in the end, he bought it, not with blood, but with everything he had.